SARC Talk. SARC is a nonprofit cancer research organization that develops and manages clinical research trials in pediatric and adult sarcomas. SARC Talk is a podcast to discuss activities of SARC, interview sarcoma research leaders, and review scientific initiatives in the sarcoma field.
Welcome to SARC Talk, episode 34. My name is Scott Okuno, a medical oncologist at Mayo Clinic and Chief Medical Officer at SARC. At SARC Talk, we interview interesting people who are connected to sarcoma, where we can all share and spread the knowledge about sarcoma. Today, our guest on SARC Talk is Wendy Vanderbilt. Wendy is a 3-year myxofibrosarcoma survivor, and her life story is just extraordinary, as well as her cancer journey. From an unforgettable beginning, and we'll learn more about this, she was born in a county jail, to building a 48-year marriage full of devotion and teamwork, raising 3 children and loving 11 grandchildren, and thriving through a dynamic professional life. Wendy brings a lifetime of strength and perspective to the conversation today, and we welcome Wendy. Welcome, Wendy, to SARC Talk.
Okay, I was Googling and I found a story on Nick Salium from Wisconsin, and he had been treated by Dr. Okuno. So that was the first time I heard your name. And then I was told to join a Sarcoma Alliance Facebook page. So as I went on that Facebook page, I got a private message from a girl from Rochester that said her mother had sarcoma and she would love to help me with my journey. So she hooked me up with an email with Dr. Okuno, and I wrote to him at 8 o'clock in the evening, and he wrote back at 8:20, which was amazing. I just want to say that I thank you so much for getting me into Mayo. The rest is history. I believe I'm here due to your expeditious reply and setting up the amazing team to meet with me. So I am forever grateful.
Wendy, thank you for those kind words. And as you know, part of us is our job at all major sarcoma centers across the United States is to get patients with a diagnosis of sarcoma into sarcoma centers. So anything that we can do, and if you're close, we get you in and move that forward. And we're excited that you were able to visit with us, with our team at Mayo Clinic Rochester. And then also Nick, Nick is a videographer. So he spent some nice time doing some nice videos of his sarcoma journey as well. And Nick's a great guy as well. And I thank you for referencing him as too. So before we get into your cancer journey, part of what we're trying to do at SARC Talk is to let people share their cancer journey. And next year, we have some physicians that deal with sarcoma, and we're going to have them talk to us, because these are physicians that deal with sarcoma that had a sarcoma journey as well. But this time, Wendy, we'd like to hear a little bit more about your journey, and probably let's go back to the very, very beginning, because you said that you were born in a jail. So maybe you can tell the group a little bit of how that transpired.
Exactly. Yes, my mom was the Crawford County Sheriff here in Wisconsin, and I was born there in jail, but not totally. I was born in a hospital, but I lived in jail because the living quarters were right inside the jail. So back then in 1959, that's how that was.
Well, that's quite interesting. So I think most of us cannot say that we actually grew up in a jail, but I think, Wendy, you did. So that's great. Wendy, as you know, you said that in your journey, when you were diagnosed with sarcoma, the first thing you did was Google sarcoma. And as we all know, that sarcoma is extremely rare. And we know that many people don't know what they have because it's a new story to them. And then maybe, you happen to you, your sarcoma journey, but there are people listening that they have their loved ones who have sarcoma. And maybe you can tell your story. Yes, you did reach out to Google. Unfortunately, you did get into a cancer center. But if you can share your story, and partly because then I think other people will hear their stories are very, very similar. So if you can share a little bit about how your diagnosis was made, what was your journey, and what brought you to a biopsy, imaging, and then treatment.
Okay, yes. I had a lump in my left forearm, and I have gone to the doctor 3 times in a year and had concerns about it. But they didn't feel it was anything to be concerned about. But I just didn't feel that I needed to stop there. I just kept pushing forward. And I finally got to my dermatologist. He sent me to her. And she did the biopsy. And she ended up doing the surgery, taking it out. And when she did, I remember her saying it was a very unique little marble-sized tumor, and it was kind of ugly. It was, I guess, red and blue and whatnot. So she said she'd never see anything like it. She sent it in and told me I'd hear back in 3 to 5 days. And that was in Madison. And I didn't hear from her like in 10 days. So I called her and she said I should let you know soon, but we had to send it to Mayo Clinic. So I heard back in a couple days that it was myxofibrosarcoma, a very rare aggressive cancer, grade 2 out of grade 3. And at that moment, she told me I'd have to have more surgery. So I ended up going on a vacation. And at the airport, a young man was wheeled up to me by the airport attendant, sat by me, and we had a couple hours to talk. And come to find out, he had sarcoma, osteosarcoma. So he told me, you do not mess around with this. You need to get to a specialist. So that was like a God thing. I call him God winks. And I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to him. He had his whole leg removed. And he wasn't able to walk more than a block. And he's a young guy, 40 years old. But he was thankful. He got to a specialist and he's doing okay. So I listened to him. I got home and I started to fight because my insurance company would not cover bail. And so that's when I got on that Sarcoma Alliance Facebook page when a girl built to me and said to write to you. So it was all amazing how it all worked out.
Well, to your point, the important part is a couple of factors. And I think what I'm hearing is that you knew you had a lump in your left forearm. You went to a provider several times. Most of us know that most lumps and bumps are just lumps and bumps. And it's only that rare situation that it turns out to be a sarcoma. What was it specifically about these 3 visits that made you persevere and be an advocate to get the next step done?
Well, I continued to feel it in my arm, and I just felt this is not right. It shouldn't be there, and it was kind of moving around. And plus, I have a lot of skin cancer over the years, which I knew it wasn't skin cancer. It was underneath the skin. I could feel it. And I just thought, no, I'm not taking no for an answer. I want this checked out.
So when you got the biopsy done, it was sent out because these are rare tumors, and it was sent to a referral center and eventually got to Mayo. What did you think about when you finally got the diagnosis that it was a grade 2 myxofibrosarcoma?
Well, I was confused because they told me they would do surgery right away in Madison. But I didn't understand because they didn't even know what it was there. And so I thought, wait a minute, I want a second opinion. And that's when I think you emailed me right about that time when I was trying to get this second opinion. And I had to go through appeals. I did 2 appeals and I did a peer-to-peer and what doctors did. And it took just a little bit of time to get that done. And I was a little bit stressed out because here I was dealing with knowing I have a rare aggressive cancer. And yet I had to fight to get to where I need to be. So that was an emotional time for sure. But I was, like I say, overwhelmed and thankful that I got into Mayo. That's where I need to be.
So you are very persistent. You are an advocate for yourself. You fought for yourself. Can you share a little bit of the support you got from the advocacy groups as well? Because you did join a face group or an advocacy group, and they provided additional support and information. Maybe you can share with our audience how that went.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, I joined that little Facebook page. It's not little, got a lot of people on there. And what they said, the one girl wrote to me right away and said, you need to, get working on this because nothing Vanessa around her. And then also everyone on there always checked back and he was saying, how are you doing? It was kind of like a support group. It sure is, still is. And just praying for people and giving people ideas. So yeah, I think it's an amazing alliance to be a part of.
So it's really important that we, knowing that as a provider group that does sarcoma, that there are great organizations out there that do support patients and their families and caregivers during their sarcoma journey. And it sounds like you maybe not be where you are today unless you reached out and you had a private chat that got you to a referral center. So I do think it's important that people do go to these organizations and get expert guidance of where to go and kind of how to solve the next journey. Wendy, maybe you can share a little bit about your professional life as well, because this diagnosis came in at a time when I think you were still working. Is that correct?
Yes. I was working, just part-time. I was 63, so I still do different things. But at that time, I wasn't doing, I used to manage a motel and, the Subway restaurant years ago. So I wasn't doing all of that. But I was working at a coffee shop and loving it. And I did have to quit there because of everything that went on. And I haven't been back to work just because of my left arm isn't able to lift as much as I'd like it to. And I am left-handed, so that was hard. My primary arm. But what would I say? I had a lot of support, even though I wasn't working full-time. So I appreciate all the support I had at that term.
Now, you live not close to the sarcoma center. Is that correct? You live far away?
Oh, I'm 2.5 hours. So that's
correct. So I'm not giving where you live, so just so people do know, but she does live far away from a sarcoma center. But she was very fortunate to have the resources to get to a sarcoma center. And maybe you can describe a little bit kind of what did you experience a couple of years ago when you came to a major sarcoma referral center?
It was pretty awesome. I started out with Dr. Robinson, who I thought was amazing. And then I went to Dr. Hodet, who has been my orthopedic oncologist. And he was fabulous. And then I had Dr. Bakri for my skin graft, the classic surgeon. And then I had Missy Naylor, who I couldn't have done it without her. She was so kind and compassionate. I was fortunate also to be able to stay at the Marriott for 5 weeks. And that happened because I had met a friend 25 years ago who had a daughter at the Ronald McDonald home. And we have a friendship till this day. And she worked at the Marriott, so I got family and friend discount. So, going through radiation and being able to stay at the Marriott was a big deal. I met a lot of wonderful people there. It was a 3-minute walk to go do the radiation treatment. And I am forever thankful for that comforting place to stay. And Anna and her staff there were treated me like a queen. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Most people would say they didn't like doing radiation. But for me, it was a chance to be in a bigger city and had a lot of friends.
Well, it's quite interesting. For those that are listening online, you're going to say, bigger city, Rochester, Minnesota here, but the reality is it is a bigger city compared to a lot of the towns in our surrounding area. But I do think what Wendy did highlight is important for anybody that's listening is Dr. Robinson is a sarcoma medical oncologist. Dr. Hodek is an orthopedic orthopedic surgery expert. Dr. Bakri, he's a plastic surgeon. Dr. Ivy Peterson, I don't think, she's the radiation oncologist who's a sarcoma radiation oncologist who subsequently has retired. So all of a sudden you come to a big city, Rochester, you come to a sarcoma center, and all of a sudden you're meeting different individuals that do different things for the management, diagnosis, and treatment for sarcoma. And you're right, to get up and, drive 2.5 hours, 3 hours to a destination, and then to get 5 weeks of radiation, it's quite daunting. And yes, you were able to stay at a Marriott. There's Hope Lodge, which is run by the American Cancer Society, and there are many of them across the United States. But those are areas where patients with ongoing treatment can stay for free. So I'm giving a plug for the American Cancer Society, the Hope Lodges of this world. If you don't have resources, there are people that can help out. So Wendy, you went through the medical oncology aspect, you went for the radiation aspect, you went for the surgery, reconstruction. Do you still follow up with the team in Rochester?
Yes, I do. I was having scans every 3 months until just recently I'm every 6 months. And I go in just a couple weeks in December here. And they keep a good eye on me. I am doing pretty well. I do have lung nodules, but at this time they're not anything, I guess, to worry about. So I'm really thankful. But I have a CT scan every 6 months now.
We're fortunate now you're about 3 years or so coming on out from your diagnosis. If you would say to people, I wish I would have known this when I started my cancer journey, what were the 1 or 2 things you would like people to know about your cancer journey?
Okay. Well, let's see here. Getting to a specialist right away. I don't know if is that what you're asking? What you would do if you had cancer, or?
It's open-ended.
Oh, okay. I would just make sure that you be persistent and go forward. Be your own advocate. Early detection is the key for sarcoma. Don't take no for an answer. Push forward. Follow up on insurance and just demand action. I know that I had to be a big advocate for myself because I don't think I would be here if I didn't get to Mayo. So thank you so much, Dr. Okuno. The other little thing I just thought about was radiation. I would say a few things that I didn't know right away, and I learned along the way, was ask for a pillow to put under your neck. Sometimes they might not just think to tell you what you can have, but I kept asking for maybe different things. But you could have a pillow put under your neck. You could have a warm blanket if you like. Music. You could get whatever music you want. And then another thing I needed was knowing the time frame. Like if the technician can tell you, like, okay, you've only got 3 minutes left. Sometimes that worked out too, just not to make you stressed. So there are some little things you can ask for. I do remember one time I was in the radiation room for the lobby, and there's a couple sitting there, and there's a lady holding her husband's hand. And I went over to her and I said, is this your first day? And she said, yes, it is. And I said, well, I'm just about done. Could I tell you a few things? She said, please do. And so I told her all these things, and I saw her the next day, and she said, it went perfect. So, I mean, just little things like that, if people could know ahead of time, I guess.
Wendy, thanks. That's very helpful. And, I see a lot of patients who've gone through radiation, have experienced radiation, and you're the first person that said, bring a pillow. So I have to kind of remember that a pillow is allowed in the radiation suite there. And as you said, I think the tips that you suggested for, getting through the daily radiations for 5 weeks, it does take cheerleading and being compassionate and understanding the waiting room that there might be people for the first time. And we appreciate you reaching out to that individual and supporting them during their first day. And however, it sounded like it went well.
Right.
As you went through your journey, you kept going back to a cancer center. There are probably worrisome things that you worry about when you come back for imaging and follow-up. Can you share kind of some of the thoughts that you had earlier on in the follow-up visits versus the visit that you're planning later this year?
I have a lot of faith, so I don't think I was as worried as I could have been. Maybe I should have been because it's a pretty aggressive deal. But I don't remember getting to, I asked my husband that, did I seem like I was this, that, and the other? He said, no, you really didn't, because I know I wanted to answer a question. But I guess the other thing too was I had a lot of visitors too when I was there. And I met a lot of people, some new friends that I'm in touch with today that live all across the United States. So I don't remember being too nervous about what would be the next step, because I just knew I could get through it.
Well, I'm excited that, number one, you're doing as well as you are. Number two is that you weren't nervous, but, we do know that there are individuals that it does affect them trying to come back for the surveillance scans, at least earlier on. It may never get completely better, but, it sounds like for you, it going for the follow-up visits that's fine. That's what you can do. But just so those that are listening, if it's quite anxiety provoking going for your follow-up visits, we understand that. And I think we just have to take a breath,
Right.
see what the scans show, see what the exam shows, and then as anything in life, take one step at a time. So that's great.
I did have, I'm sorry, I should report, the last scan that I had, I did get a little bit out of whack. So here I am saying I did really well. So they did offer that I could have some medicine. And so I had done, 2.5 years, okay with it. But the last time, I'm sorry, I completely forgot. I did take a little medicine. So yeah, that's out there too, that you could take just so you're not upset doing those scans.
Yeah. So again, that's correct. So I do think that those are the things, as these are little tidbits that do go on to allow you to get through the exams and more appropriately without moving, because sometimes you have to lay still for it. Wendy, your journey, very fortunate is moving along nicely. We do know that there are people listening that their journeys might be a little rockier along the way. And I'll go back to the patient advocacy groups as well. As it sounds like you're still connected to the patient advocacy groups that you engaged with, and you're providing additional support for other people that come into the support group. Can you share kind of how your role has now changed in the advocacy group compared to when you first started?
Right. And as you say, yes, there are people out there that are really struggling. I have a good friend that I met through this Facebook page 3 years ago, and she has Dr. Hodat also, and we both came on the same day, and we had appointments the first year all the time on the same date. So it was pretty amazing. And she has had 3 reoccurrences. So it's been really tough for her. And she just came last week to Rochester, and I was there also. So yeah, it's not easy. I mean, some people are going through a lot, but Amy is a fighter, and she did have to have her from her knee down amputated. So it's been a tough journey for her. She's only 43 years old. But anyway, I guess the best thing you can do is just stay in contact, keep cheering each other on. And on that Facebook Alliance, I'm always checking in on people and just praying for people. advocating, best bikini.
Well, Wendy, thank you for what you do, and thank you for being a spokesperson for yourself, but also for other individuals going through their cancer journey. So we do appreciate that. As we end here, we always like to ask something specific, but if you had a billboard in Rochester, what would you want the billboard to say about you and or your sarcoma journey?
Oh my goodness. I was on a billboard here in my little town one time. Funny that you would ask. Oh my goodness. Let's see. That's a tough one. But I guess I'd want to say live life to the fullest and do what makes you happy. Find joy and don't let life stress you out. That's what we have to do. Sometimes you might have to search a little harder, but it's worth it. We can find joy.
Yeah. Wendy, that's a great billboard. We'll try to make sure that we live every day like that. Are there any additional thoughts or comments you want to share with our audience today?
I guess just, make the best of a tough situation, advocate for yourself. Oh, the other thing is eat healthy. Don't get you talked about bad at all. As far as I try not to have much sugar, I'm staying away from that. I do take some supplements and just make sure if you ever have any thoughts or ideas about your body, you need to push forward and get to a specialist.
Wendy, thank you. And as we say, we should all eat healthy. We should all exercise, and we should all be in tune with our bodies. And Wendy, we hope all the best for you and your continued follow-up visits at the Sarcoma Center as well. And we thank you for sharing your story. I know sometimes it's hard to share the story publicly, so we do appreciate you sharing the story. And hopefully other people that hear the story will understand that, yes, be persistent, get to a sarcoma center. SARC has actually a website that does have sarcoma centers listed across the United States. So if you don't know where a sarcoma center with high volume is, go to the SARC website and please look there, and that will be helpful for you to get to a site. Sometimes you need to stay at that sarcoma site. Sometimes we at the sarcoma sites can partner with the local oncologist as well. So just as a plug for us at SARC, is if you don't know a sarcoma center, go to the sarcoma center on our webpage. Wendy, thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for being an advocate for all sarcoma survivors and being positive in your outlook. We thank you for trusting us and sharing your journey with us. So thank you. For those that are in SARC Talk, please continue to follow us. We have some additional episodes that we are planning, but if you have any comments or suggestions, please drop us a note. We do look at them, and Megan and I will review and set up more podcasts for the future. So enjoy the rest of the year. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to SARC Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. To learn more about SARC, visit us at sarctrials.org. If you have questions or would like to suggest a topic, email us at sarctalk@sarctrials.org. SARC Talk is made possible through the generous support of Syrie Pharmaceuticals. Together, we can find a cure for all forms of sarcoma.